Safadi, I'd like to ask you, first of all, for your response. Second of all, can you take us into some of these negotiation rooms and tell us particularly what regional players might be willing to provide to get a deal done? Because, you know, for example, earlier this month, you met with your counterparts from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, and Egypt in this big meeting in Riyadh that we've been hearing so much about. We've been hearing one of the plans discussed, you know, might provide security assurances, additional security to Israel, for example. What is potentially on the table to move not only from a ceasefire, but maybe also to a two-state solution, possibly also to another normalization agreement with Saudi Arabia and Israel in the region, for example?
Thank you, Sarah. I mean, first of all, I think the key thing is that this war has to end. This murder has to end. These war crimes have to end. That's the number one. That's the bottom line.
And what happens after?
I'll come to that. But for now, nothing can justify the continuation of the destruction of the livelihood of 2 million people. Nothing can justify attacking hospitals. Nothing can justify killing 12,000 children. Nothing can justify making 17,000 children in Gaza orphaned. That this is unacceptable by any standard. Israel has crossed every moral, humanitarian, legal law that there exists. That's number one. Number two, again, we've got to frame things right. It is unacceptable, again, to keep beating around the bush and not to recognize that the problem is with Israeli politics, that Israel does not want to recognize the right of the Palestinian people to exist. Not only are they saying that, but they're doing everything that will render the two-state solution unviable. And facts speak to that. Again, look at how things have evolved over the past 10, 15 years. Every horizon for peace have been blocked by Israel. Dehumanization of Palestinians have continued. There's nothing left to give to the Palestinians. That is a fact, and we have to accept that. And when we talk about Hamas, what about the settler terrorism on the West Bank? When settlers go rampage Palestinian village, kill no, they're not in jail. No action has been taken. No significant action has been taken against settlers. Actually, settlers were armed by Israel. And they go, yesterday, settlers killed Palestinian children. So we have to call things as they are. The root cause of the problem is that there's an occupation that the Israeli government is not willing even to admit and recognize. And this government
What's on the table from regional players?
I'll tell you that. What's on the table is a full peace. That is the Arab Peace Initiative of 2002, and it's still on the table. Full normal ties, full peace, full acceptance. But that cannot happen without ending the occupation and giving the Palestinians their rights. We cannot solve the conflict unless we recognize that there are 5 million Palestinians under occupation whose lives are totally hostage. Talk about Gaza now and the hostage deal. Israel is taking 2 million Palestinians hostage in Gaza. And I'm sorry, Israel did not end its occupation of Gaza. Legally, Gaza was still occupied. We say, okay, Israel got out of Gaza, but they besieged their borders, they besieged their skies, they denied the entry of anything into Gaza without the permission of Israel, and they say we freed Gaza. Gaza was an open prison even before October 7. Gaza was besieged. Now, in the last 10 days, do you know that only 43 trucks were allowed into Gaza of supplies, and those trucks were not distributed because Israel killed the police escort that was protecting those supplies. So people are starving. 500,000 people in Gaza right now are at the highest level of starvation. Gaza is facing famine. So we have to recognize that. Talk about incitement. Who's inciting now? When the Deputy Speaker of Knesset says we want to burn Gaza. What's on the table, again, for the hostage deal, by the way, I'm sure you heard the Qatari Prime Minister. Whoever wants a deal does not walk away from negotiations. Israel walked away from negotiations. Everybody knows that the first offer is always a maximalist offer. But you go for the first round and then you agree to send a delegation. And the next day you decide not to send a delegation. So that also shouldn't totally. I personally believe that this current Israeli government does not want a hostage deal, does not want this war to end. It wants to continue with this war because it wants to save the political of the Palestinians.
We have to open it up to allow people in the room.
And just one last thing, Sarah. On the table, again, is full peace in return for ending the occupation. And that's the only way to guarantee the security of Israelis, of Palestinians. And again, we want a region at peace. We want Israelis and Palestinians to live in safety and peace. But that can only happen if both peoples have their rights addressed. The Arab Peace Initiative spoke of full Arab guarantees for Israel's security. Israel has to do what's right and has to recognize that the Palestinians have a right to statehood, to freedom, and they're not human animals. They're people who deserve to live in dignity and freedom.